Hey everybody, this is Eric Jeans. Let's keep walking through the Bible. So today is 322, day 322, and it's getting chilly out. I don't know about you where you live, but man, as we get into the end of November here, whew, it's been cold, and love it. Love this time of year. Love Thanksgiving. Love putting up the decorations. I think you see little baby Yoda back up there in the corner, little elf on the shelf style. And we don't do elf on the shelf. My kid's out of high school now, and we never really did it anyway. I'm not even sure where that started, but you know, we got baby Yoda up there with the little elf hat, and love just to decorate. So love Jesus, love the real meaning of Christmas. But I love all the decorations, how people have fun with this season, and I don't get too uptight about, you know, if people want to throw up Santa or, you know, reindeer or Christmas movies or whatever, because I know what the real meaning is, and if anybody wants to talk about it, I'm up for talking about it. So anyway, I hope you're doing well. We are in the book of Revelation, and it's intense, as you know. I think yesterday we did the fifth and sixth trumpet, and today we have a sort of break. As I mentioned, we have a break between the sixth trumpet and the seventh trumpet. You have what we're going to talk about today. You have this angel and the little scroll, and then tomorrow we're going to get into the two witnesses, and then the seventh trumpet, along with pretty much the seventh trumpet, and then we might actually in that also take up the beginning of chapter 12, which talks about the woman and the dragon. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So thank you so much for your love. Thanks for hitting the likes, you know, resharing. Resharing really helps, because I have, you know, small accounts or whatever, and my reach isn't all that great. I have a online friend who happens to have a pretty good sized following, and he had reached out just the other day and asked, you know, wait, have you done this every day? And I was like, well, more or less. I mean, there have been breaks. I'm catching up here and there as life happens. But at the end of the year, it will be every day. And he's like, wow. And this guy has a different sort of online presence. He's involved with, you know, doing stuff with internet and things like that, and cybersecurity. And anyway, so he was just like, wow, that's amazing. And he reshared one of my videos to his very large audience. He has thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And that video, last time I checked, it had, at least that post, maybe not the video, but the post of the video had been seen like 1,300 times. And three people had reposted it from his repost. So they had seen it, saw enough of it that they were like, hey, I want to share this. And picked up a YouTube subscriber, at least one, maybe a couple. So yeah, when you share, I appreciate it. You never know who will look at it and go, oh, you know, this is something I want in my life. So I appreciate you for doing that. And anyway, so why don't we pray, and then we'll get in chapter 10 here of Revelation. Lord, I love you. God, thank you. Thank you for people and getting the word out. And all the bumps and grinds of life, Lord, you help us keep walking forward, Lord. Trust you for everything, Lord. Trust you to bless this ministry. I trust you to take care of us financially. I trust you to, you know, feed us, give us that bread every day that we need. Good bread to live on, and bread to nourish my soul here in the Word. God, trust you to protect me and my family from the enemy, Lord, and I trust you to get the glory, God. I want you to get all the credit. I really do. Even when I don't, even when I mess up and I take ownership of stuff in my life, I deep down, Lord, I really do want you to get the credit. So to you, Lord Jesus, to you, Father, Spirit, glory, honor, dominion, power, all of it, forever and ever. Amen. All right, well, okay, so let me get a sip of coffee here. if you love what I'm doing here and you want to support what I'm doing financially, and of course you don't have to, it's all free, it always will be. I don't have anything behind a paywall. The easiest way is to go to ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com, and you can type in my name there, Zachary Jeans, or just hit the little backslash on the when you're typing out the URL and the address in your browser. Ko-fi, ko-fi, or sorry, ko-fi.com/Zachary Jeans, and if you want, you can give there. They don't take any money from me. They take zero money. I have a small processing fee I pay through my credit card or the online payment platform, but yeah, basically everything that you subscribe to, if you do a monthly, for 10 or 20 or 50 or more, I get most of that. It comes straight to me, and of course then I can write off those processing fees. Not a nonprofit, so I can't write you a thing at the end of the year, so I apologize. But if you love what I do, you can support me that way if you want to. You can buy me some coffee or just support the ministry growing. All right, we're going to pick up in chapter 10, verse 1. We're going to go paragraph by paragraph, okay? Then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud, with a rainbow over his head. And his face was like the sun, and his legs like pillars of fire. He had a little scroll open in his hand, and he set his right foot on the sea, and his left foot on the land. So, when we're in the scenes there, in the heavenly throne room, right? And I'll finish the rest of this chapter. I just want you to see what he's saying there. This angel has this rainbow over his head. So multicolored light, right? Over his head. This angel. And he's wrapped in a cloud. So it's like, white cloud, maybe some gray in there, but whatever. And this angel comes down with this bow and this of light and this cloud. And his face was like the sun, super bright. So colored light, bright sun face, cloud covering his body. And his legs like pillars of fire. And so from torso down, just like flames of fire, just fire. That is an incredible vision. And when we had the throne room of heaven, the Father's sitting there on the throne, and it describes there being like a rainbow of light, multicolored light, and like emerald light around there. Just all kinds of visions of color and light and power in the throne room. And so this angel is described in not unsimilar ways also to Jesus. If you remember the color of his feet, the burnished bronze that you could see at the bottom there underneath the hem of his white robe with the golden sash, almost like molten bronze, and flame eye, fire eyes, it's like bright wool head. So you have this angel. So whenever I read this passage here, and it's a fairly famous passage, it all is, but this stands out. This angel comes off to me is very powerful. Somehow akin to the same, just a high level of power and authority. Because of those images I just talked about of who Jesus portrays himself to John as, with the voice like a trumpet and whatnot, and that whole image I described, and then the throne room of heaven with the Father sitting there on the throne. He had a little scroll in his hand, a little scroll, a tiny one. And he set his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land, and called out with a loud voice like a lion roaring. When he called out, the 7 thunders sounded. And when the 7 thunders had sounded, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Seal up what the 7 thunders have said, and do not write it down." And the angel whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land raised his right hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and what is in it, and the earth and what is in it, and the sea and what is in it, and that there would be no more delay, but that in the days of the trumpet call to be sounded by the seventh angel, the mystery of God would be fulfilled, just as he announced to his bondservants, the prophets. So, small scroll in this angel's hand. We don't know how big this angel is, actually. So I guess, you stand on the coastline where the water's kind of lapping back and forth, not maybe rushing in and out, but just kind of lapping back and forth. Maybe a picture of the Mediterranean Sea. He's just standing there, and he's got like 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the sand, and he's like 6 foot tall or something. But I don't know, I just always get this picture of him being like, I don't know, very large, like huge, massive. I don't know if he's the size of a mountain, but in my mind I see him like one of these giant, like 50 or 80 foot or maybe 300 foot tall, like powerful angel coming down, and he's got like, he's so tall, like there's this like rainbow above his head, and his face is like the sun, so bright you can't even really grasp what's going on there. And his body is mostly shielded in like a cloud, like covered in a cloud instead of an actual garment. His like garment is a cloud covering his body, and then his legs that you see coming down from the bottom of the cloud are like burning flames of fire. And he's like, boom, boom, one leg down into the ocean and one leg down onto the land. And it's like he just stands there and he reaches up, right? Like way up into the sky. And he swears by the Lord of heaven and earth, right? Who made everything, that everything was going to start to happen. Now, also within this, you have the seven thunders. He calls to the seven thunders. And this is this interesting moment where, of all the things that John sees, that it's like, do you really want to tip your hand, Lord? Do you want to give the enemy or your enemies that much information about what you're going to do? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to tell you exactly how this is going to go down in great detail. And yet there's this thing, it says, seal up what the seven thunders have said and do not write it down. Don't tell them what you just heard. You're seeing all the stuff that's coming down at the end here. And of all the things which he's written about, all these incredible earth-shaking events, heaven-shaking events, massive death, billions dead, armies of incredible size, waging war on entities or creatures or robots or vehicles or something, that blow fire and smoke and kill with their mouth, a cannon out of the front, and somehow sting or kill with serpent tails or a serpent tail off the back. And it's just like, what? And then this happens, and he's allowed to talk about this massive, in my mind, I see it as a massive angel, but he's not allowed to tell us what these seven thunders say. Now, I don't know. I mean, now this could be fun. We could speculate. What did he say that you wouldn't want to be said? I don't know. So I'm not going to speculate. I think it's okay for you to kind of wonder personally. But just when you wonder and you think about it and you kind of even come to a conclusion, I know what I think it is. With that level of speculation, don't trust in it. Don't build any of your theology on what you think the seven thunders said. It's really hard. So like if you want to put in a placeholder there, that empty spot there of what the seven thunders said, like ideas about salvation or ideals about the final judgment or when the Lord will return or, because nobody knows the day or the hour. So maybe that's what the thunder said. You have all these ideas of what it could mean, and then you start to build or support other parts of your theology, your eschatology, or your Christology, or whatever it relates to. You can't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But think about it. You can also have fun with it. Think about it. But it's fascinating. Of all the things that John saw, he's like, don't talk. Don't write that one down. All right. Verse 8. Then the voice that I had heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, go take the scroll that is open in the hand of the angel, who is standing on the sea and on the land. All right. So I went to the angel and I told him to give me the little scroll. And he said to me, take and eat it. It'll make your stomach bitter, but in your mouth it'll be sweet as honey. And I took the little scroll from the hand of the angel and ate it. It was sweet as honey in my mouth. But when I had eaten it, my stomach was made bitter. And I was told, you must again prophesy about many peoples and nations and languages and kings. So the knowledge that he was about to consume was sweet to the taste, but bitter to the processing of his body. Wow. So, I think of all the sweet things that I eat or drink, and, at my age, now I'm in my late 40s, I just have no stomach for the things I could consume, even 10 years ago, let alone when I was like 18, 19, 20 years old. So it's interesting, I think of goodness, I was having some holiday creamer in my coffee. I never take creamer in my coffee. I never take sweetened stuff in my coffee. It's pretty rare. I say never. I rarely do. And but around the holidays, I'll drink some of it. And I had some really tasty mocha peppermint something in my coffee. It tasted great. I drank about maybe a quarter of the cup of coffee that I had mixed it with. And it didn't take maybe 10 minutes. And my stomach was already bitter. Just acid, and body's trying to process it. My body did not like it. And I don't know, there's just so many things that make me think of this passage, or this passage can relate to in my real life. But it's not just a literal, it is in a way, because in his vision, as he was taken up in the spirit and he experienced all this stuff, he did take that little scroll and he did eat it. He was able to consume it in that reality that he was walking in. And it went down and it tasted great. Honey, super sweet, and it was bitter in his stomach. And the answer about it is that he was told, you must again prophesy about many peoples and nations and languages and kings. And we're going to get a whole bunch of more information about some pretty awful stuff. Okay? So remember that as we're going through it. We hear about the first and the second beast and the woman and the dragon and Satan thrown down from earth, and just peeking ahead here, the 7 bowls of the wrath of God and the 7 angels with the 7 plagues, and all of this, right? There's going to be some sweet stuff, a bunch of bitter, the calling up of the saints, right? The judgments of the 2 witnesses might be a sweet thing in a way, right? But they're killing at the end of their life there, and then eventual resurrection, but their killing might be a very bitter thing. So anyway, it's one way to interpret this section, but let's go back just a minute and just make another point. So the voice that he had heard from heaven spoke to me again, saying, so I take that to mean this is the Lord Jesus, the one who spoke to him from heaven. Remember the door in heaven said, come up here. The one who had spoke to him behind him, and he recognized that as the Lord, with a voice of a trumpet and the white robe, burnished bronze feet, flame fire eyes, the white wool hair. This one who spoke to him, I take that to mean that voice. And he said, go take the scroll that is open in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land. So I went to the angel, told him, give me the scroll. And he said to me, take and eat it. It will make your stomach bitter. Just a small subtle note that I wanted to point out, because we're usually talking about what we just did, the sweet and the bitter and this and that. The Lord told him, go take the scroll, go get it. So John goes up to this insanely powerful angel, whether he's 6 foot tall or 60 or 600, I don't know, whatever, walks up to him and he looks at this incredibly powerful angel and he says, hey, give me that thing. Like, he's like, zero hesitation. The Lord said, go do this thing. And he's like, all right, we're done with the hesitation. Everything that I've seen up to this point, I'm walking forward. Walks up to this incredibly powerful angel with the fire legs and the rainbow hat and the face like the sun and a cloud covering, and he's just like, give me that scroll. And the angel's like, okay, here it is. So the other thing is, and I was told, you must again prophesy about many peoples, nations, languages, and kings. You think about it, and I take a deep breath, because we have covered some massive realities. And any one of those realities, take the flaming fire mountain that comes falling from the sky, right? And hits the Pacific Ocean or the Mediterranean or the Atlantic or whatever. And it poisons a third, or it doesn't poison, it turns basically those oceans to blood almost, because it kills everything. A third of the things in the sea die, and a third of the ships on the ocean are destroyed. This is this massive event. And you just go, that story that we get in about that much text could be unfolded in like a 2-hour movie or a book that tells the story of all the events around it and what happened and those who survived and those who died. Like you could read a book that was written, it's 40 hours to listen on audiobook, right? Like, in other words, each one of these trumpets or seals, each one of these things that is described in, I don't know, 100 words a piece, could be like massive realities that would take hours to explain in detail. They could be, and to be fair, if you're alive at that time and you happen to witness it but not be killed by it, will be talked about and wondered at in between judgments for like days, maybe weeks. The times in which we live have some hard things. And I don't know when you're watching this. If you're watching it right now, it's 2023. It's going to be 2024. I don't know if you're watching this in 2030 or 2050 or whatever. The world has some cataclysmic stuff happening now. But don't think for a minute that anything that we're seeing, at least right now, or have seen in the recent past, and I say recent past, the last couple thousand years, is anything close to this, the stuff that we're seeing. I mean, there have been a couple 9.6 or 9.7 type earthquakes in the last 100 years that people can point to. Like there's the big one up in Alaska that happened back in the day. And, we've had a tsunami that happened out in the Indian Ocean, killed, people think, maybe a couple 100,000, 300,000 people. The events that we've already talked about, is John is told, hey, take a beat, go eat that scroll. We're going to talk about a bunch more stuff. The stuff that he's already talked about, a third of the population of Earth here, a third of the plant life there, a third of the creatures in the sea there, dead, right? Like, that's massive. It doesn't even compare, like nothing we have experienced thus far, at least in our lifetimes, and I mean the lifetimes of any of us that have lived since John, they don't match up with this stuff. So as much as anybody wants to read their Bible through the news headlines on their social feed, or whatever email newsletter you get, or the news on TV, dude, you guys, it doesn't look great, but it's nothing compared to this, what we've already read and what John is about to have to prophesy next. So we're in chapter 10. We just finished up chapter 10. There are 22 chapters, and the last 2 chapters are pretty upbeat. So basically about the next 10 chapters are pretty hardcore too. Yeah, just keep it in perspective. All right, so anyway, tomorrow we're going to get into the two witnesses. The two witnesses. And then the following day, we're going to get into the 7th trumpet and the woman and the dragon. All right. Until next time, hey, I know this is heavy stuff. Keep walking, all right? God bless you. Bye-bye.